All right, and I think we are now, in fact, live. Hi, Drex here. I know it has been quite some time since I've done a live stream here on YouTube. I think it's actually been maybe a month or two at this point. So yeah, sorry I've been away for so long because I do enjoy getting the opportunity to kind of have a more direct relationship with you guys, which is going to tie into one of the things I talk about today. Aha. Uh, Hi there, everybody. Oh, we got some checks on the line. Ahoy! How y'all doing? Cool, cool. So this live stream is going to serve two purposes. The first one is I'm going to talk a little bit about IGTV because in a lot of the circles that I run in terms of content creators online and everything, IGTV is like this big white hope that everybody's talking about now, and especially talking about it as a competitor to Facebook, or not Facebook, but to YouTube, because nobody else has really put together a very strong competitor to YouTube just yet. And I'm going to talk a little bit about both why I think IGTV maybe doesn't entirely fit that mold in the way that people quite want it to. And also that there's kind of a missed opportunity there. But it might not be a missed opportunity for everybody. I think there are some flow artists that will be able to make use of the platform very well, but I don't think that poi spinning is going to be one of them. I'm also going to talk about my workshops coming up in New York City next weekend, which I'm very pumped for. And I'm also going to take everybody's questions about any topics related to poi and flow arts. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in, yeah? Because I see already one of you, Stoicho Garnev, is asking, what is IGTV? So I'm going to guess that you are watching me from outside the United States, which is probably why you haven't heard of IGTV, because I don't think it's available outside of the United States just yet. So IGTV is a new project that Instagram has started up. Essentially what Instagram is doing is they're creating a new platform that once again is mobile first. It's accessible through a mobile app. I don't think there's really a way to interact with it via a laptop or desktop computer. But the idea is basically that it's an all vertical video platform that is centered around long form content. So while Instagram is limited to no more than a minute long video, and Instagram stories are limited to something like 15 or 20 seconds per video. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere thereabouts. They'll take videos of up to an hour long. And again, this is vertical format videos and everything. And because Instagram, number one, has such a huge user base, and number two is growing like a weed, it is growing much faster than its parent company, Facebook, is growing. Facebook, in fact, is on a decline right now. It is losing users. But Instagram continues to expand. And Facebook, of course, last year tried to launch a video platform based on Facebook called Facebook Watch, which at this point it's been pretty much agreed is kind of a failure, that it didn't get the kind of engagement that they were hoping for. They spent a lot of money paying different kind of organizations and artists to create content for Facebook Watch, and the engagement was just never there. People didn't tune in to watch that much, didn't get as many likes, didn't get as many comments, and so they've kind of backed off of it. Whereas with IGTV, basically on Instagram, one of their most engaging forms of content is stories, which, as we all know, is basically a ripoff of Snapchat. And they, no judgment there. They took a feature that was really popular on Snapchat. They realized they could implement it very, very easily on their own platform, and they did it. And it turned out that since a lot of people were already on Instagram for other stuff, they were more than happy to use Instagram for, quick off-the-cuff videos that would expire within 24 hours. So, good play on their part. And because stories have been so so highly engaging for Instagram, they decided to put together this platform, IGTV, which allows you to essentially upload longer versions of stories. And I think that's one of the primary problems with it. So now that I've given you guys the background, and by the way, feel free to chime in with whatever questions or comments you may have, and I will get to them in the order that they come in and everything. So lots and lots and lots of content producers have been looking at IGTV and being like, oh my God, so they've got this huge user base, they have this very, very engaging form of content, and now they're long form. They're going to be a huge competitor to YouTube. Now all these people who are unhappy with YouTube have someplace to go. And I've been using the platform a lot in the past few days, and I don't think that that is right. I think that IGTV has a few problems. It has a couple minor problems and at least two enormous problems that prevent it from really doing the thing that people want it to do and be like a good YouTube competitor. So I'm going to go through them somewhat quickly, just in the interest of time and everything, because I don't want to spend this entire live stream talking about IGTV. But suffice it to say, IGTV's got some major restrictions to it. One of the biggest ones is that it's a vertical video platform. Unlike Instagram, you don't have a way of changing the aspect ratio of your videos. It's all portrait format videos. And I think that that has a couple effects on the platform. The first is that it limits the kind of content that can be posted there. I've tried posting a couple different poi videos on there thus far, and what I've discovered is that while Instagram can still work with like square format videos that are neither vertical nor horizontal, the same cannot be said of vertical format videos in IGTV. Basically, it's not a good way to look at poi, it's not a good way to look at hooping, it's not a good way to look at rope dart, puppy hammer, or any prop that involves you moving side to side in space. You're basically stuck within a very narrow window. This could be a great format for jugglers, though, where all of the things that they do are more or less vertical. I'm somewhat skeptical that it's going to be good for dancers as well. Again, if for no other reason than side to side, not so good. Maybe it'll be good for people who, do digital manipulations and things like that. But for poi spinning, hooping, and staff, and I have an easier time thinking of flow arts props for which it's not a good platform than I do flow arts props for whom it is a good platform. And I think part of what goes into that too is, clearly we're all watching this on YouTube right now, and we see, kind of a horizontal video and everything. And the reason for that is that it's mimicking television, and television is mimicking movies. And why that is because there's this old theory in film theory that, because our eyes are placed side by side, we like seeing things that kind of have a horizontal aspect ratio because we're able to scan more of them. When we look at something that's vertical like this, we inherently are aware that there are things to either side that we're not seeing. And because, like, our peripheral vision, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this at night, but late at night when it's dark out, you'll see things easier out of your peripheral vision than you will directly ahead of yourself. And the reason for that is that the sensors in our eyes, the rods and the cones, and I think it's the rods, are the ones that perceive form and motion. There are more of them at the edges of our vision, and this dates back to our evolution, where if there was something trying to attack us out of the corner of our eyes, we would be able to detect it much easier that way. So when we see something that cuts off the edges, I honestly think that this causes us a bit of anxiety. Unless, there's one exception to this, and that's that when what we see lined up vertically like this is a human being, a human face, their upper body, etc. Because human beings are vertical, and when we're looking somebody in the eye, that is comforting. And so when we talk about a video platform where all the videos are vertical, that means that it's ideal for types of videos where you've got a talking head talking to you and basically nothing else. So it's going to be a great platform for video bloggers and the like, but I don't think it's going to be a good platform for like movement arts and the like. And there's something else that falls into that too, which is that we associate horizontal format video with movies and television, stuff that is like high production values and the like. Whereas vertical video is always like selfies and things that people are shooting on their cameras. So I think that there's a certain level on which we perceive vertical videos as being more amateurish, as being videos that were produced on the cheap or off the cuff. And it's great for things like stories, because when we get stories on Instagram, we feel like we're getting a more personal connection with the person creating them. They, 9 times out of 10, are not very professionally produced, and they're just quick ideas or things that people are experiencing and everything. And that's great for stories, but I don't think that it's going to sustain in full-length video format. I think that they've created they've created a solution to a problem that doesn't really exist in that regard. Yeah. And finally, the reason why I think IGTV is troublesome or is problematic is that discovery on it is horrible. I've tried searching for poi spinning videos on that platform every time I've opened it up, and it doesn't, like, the search is just terrible. And unlike Instagram, it doesn't use hashtagging to help you find more content like what you just watched. Everything is suggested based upon who you already follow on Instagram and videos that you've already seen and liked. So that's great if you're like me and you already have an audience built in, right? It's not so good if you're just getting started from scratch, because how are people going to find your videos then? They can't find them by searching by topic or anything like that. So discovery is kind of a problem. It's being left up to these algorithms, and you basically have to pray that you fall into what the algorithm is suggesting to a person. And we're still not exactly sure how it's doing that. So I think IGTV is a really interesting format. I think it's going to be great for video bloggers, but I don't see the flow arts as having a very promising career, a very promising opportunity on IGTV. And that kind of sucks, because one of the things that I really strongly dislike about Instagram is that it limits your content to no more than a minute long. And me, as a person who enjoys educating people, a minute is not long enough to teach people things, really. So that's my spiel. Thanks for sitting through it. And now I'm going to go through some of these questions you guys have been asking as I've been going off on that long tangent. And then I will come back and talk about my New York City workshops for a little while. Cool. So Stoicho Garnov says, is there any trick you are currently practicing with poi? Yeah, the one that I'm working hard on right now is in-spin flowers with gunslingers. That is, so I've had anti-spin gunslingers down now for the better part of 2 years, and I'm working on getting the in-spin flowers down in such a way that I can do them as hybrids and, of course, in-spin flowers with each other. And I kind of made what in retrospect now feels like kind of a silly decision when I went down this road, which is that so it's way easier to learn gunslingers with evenly weighted poi than it is with asymmetrical poi like this. And because of that, I decided that I was going to start with asymmetrical poi so that I wouldn't have to essentially learn them twice. And it's meant that learning them has probably taken me about 4 or 5 times longer than it would have otherwise. So yeah, that's what I've been working on, and it has been very, very slow going. But I've been making some gains of late. I'm at the point where I need to get my left hand caught up, and once I've got that, then I think I'll be in good shape. Yeah, so that's what I'm currently practicing. Gunther Smith says, I can't stand vertical videos. In most circumstances, I can't stand vertical videos either. And again, I think that it works great for stories when people are like talking to you and they're trying to communicate with their audience and everything, but I don't think that it's built for longer format videos. I really don't. So, yeah. Stoicho Garnev says, great thoughts on IGTV. Cool, thank you. Glad to hear that you think so. Hugo Carrera says, hello Drex, as always, many greetings from Argentina. Hola, ¿qué pasa? Any advice to pass the poi from one hand to another to make the 2-beat weave? I'm not sure what you're asking here. Are you asking about like switching to 2.1 hand and getting into meteor style spinning? Because I'll just say for the time being that that's what you're asking about. In which case, yes, I have some pointers here. One of the easiest ways to do it, honestly, is just like as you're doing a 3-beat weave, to hand off one of the handles to your other hand, like so. You can do that really quickly and easily, and it doesn't demand too much effort, right? It also, of course, doesn't look that slick. Some other ways that I've found that I've really been enjoying getting into one-handed weaves are like from a 1.5 like this. I can like throw the bottom point. Oops. I can throw the bottom point up like a float throw and catch it with my pinky and get into a reverse 4-beat from there. Another option would be how do I usually do this? Now that I'm thinking about it. Throws would be another great option. If you swap your poi into your pinky grip, you can say do a no-beat toss with your other hand to switch over to 2.1 hand. You can also do an in-spin throw, which I will not do because my ceilings are rather low. There's a lot of different approaches that you can take with this. Honestly, my advice to you would be to kind of like seek out situations in which you have your hands coming together for just 1 second and use those as an opportunity to make the switch. And sometimes you'll find something that looks really cool, and sometimes you'll find something that looks ridiculous, but it might give you an idea there's something else that'll look really cool. Cool, I hope that helps. I always miss the process of passing it by hand. Slow it down. Like, just take that weave as slow as molasses, and that'll help out a lot. Stoicho says it's like Bing search. Yup. And, of course, how many people do we have that are, like, super passionate about using Bing? I'm not. I don't know if you guys are, but Google, as far as I can tell, is still the king of search, and will continue to be for quite some time. Like, people underestimate how important discovery is, like, especially on a platform like Facebook, which, suggests everything for you. And unfortunately, YouTube is kind of moving in that direction too, and I hope that cooler heads prevail at some point, and YouTube realizes that, they may increase engagement time somewhat, but that it's not going to, it's not ultimately going to make the platform better, so to speak. Yeah, that was a bit of a tangent, sorry. Also, there's a guy on here who is, like, spewing some weird stuff, and I'm trying to block him right now so he doesn't get in our way. Cool. And Gunter Smith says, any type of video that is vertical, I want to shout, turn your phone sideways. I know, it's such a pet peeve of mine, especially when I see people doing it on like Facebook and everything, and it's just like, this is not rocket science. There you go. That's all it takes. Yeah. Anyhow, /rant over. Hamizrael Cactus says, do you spin with fire poi? Or do you spin with fire fans? No, I don't very often. I think I have once or twice, but my girlfriend, she's Lydia Lux on Instagram. She does, and of course we've got her fire fans on the wall back there on our lovely little prop wall, which I actually have a YouTube video on how to create a prop wall just such as this. So. Yeah. Lie Nexus says, what's your favorite poi to spin with? It depends. What am I doing? Because, for shooting my videos, these are my go-to. These are my pod poi. They've got capsules 2.0 in them. That's something I'm going to talk about in my review, which I think is coming out next week. But basically, every single video you've seen me shoot for the last like 4 or 5 months, the Glowpoi have had pods 2.0 in them, just because I wanted to try them out and see how they worked and everything. So these are my go-to for shooting my videos, and I don't know if you can tell this. Actually, here will be a good way to point this out to y'all. So there's something very unusual about these poi, and that's that I discovered very early on shooting video with my normal pod poi that the tethers just disappear when I'm that far away from the camera. So I went and ordered fatty flow cord from Flow Toys, and as you can see, the fatty flow cord is massive compared to the traditional flow cords. And it's kind of silly how thick the tether of this is at times. And it's incredibly difficult to get the, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I basically have, like, the fatty flow cord does not fit easily into the retaining ring at the top of this. It's very, very difficult to get in. So those are my go-to for shooting my videos. For practice right now, I am favoring my Lanternsmith poi. These are contact emoji balls that Lanternsmith makes. These are by far my favorite contact poi right now. You can get them at lanternsmith.com. I have a promo code there, DrexFactor, with a 0 instead of an O. That'll get you a discount on your order there. And I highly recommend these. These are more expensive than traditional contact poi, mainly because they're built a little bit differently. Get these out to show you. So the Emoja heads, rather than drilling out contact balls, Lanternsmith developed their own kind of modular system. So these have an open chamber that goes through them, and the chamber will actually fit. The capsules from pod poi, and they also fit these cartridges right here. So you can very, very easily swap out the tethers, and you can also add more or less weights to this. So you can determine how heavy your heads are going to be. They're, like, no other company has contact poi that is adjustable. So these are my go-to contact poi, and I absolutely adore them. And then a lot of the time lately, I've actually been practicing with this set of e-poi lights that were sent to me to review by Amazing Lights. I like the weight, and the tethers are a little bit shorter than my contact poi are, so they've been great for doing poi dance and everything. I stuck ultra knobs on them, so they're kind of my go-to asymmetrical poi that have LEDs both in the handle as well as the head. I had some what I called my Frankenpoi that were Emoja heads with Flow Toys capsules inside of them, and then a tether, and then I had some handles that had, I'm trying to remember what they're called, Illumigrips lights in them, and I loved those for months, but then the Illumigrips broke because, like, they're inserts that you essentially stick the lights into and everything, and they're 3D printed, and it's really, really easy to tear them when you're taking the lights in and out, unfortunately. So I because they're torn and they don't stay in the heads anymore, I don't really use them as much anymore. And then, of course, for my fire poi, I have them on the wall back there, but those are whatchamajigget. Those are from Dark Monk. The heads are, I believe, they're Nova heads, which the Nova heads are fantastic. They're the only fire poi heads I have ever had where there's no spin out. Like, I'll try and spin them out, and I will not get any fuel to come back out of them, which is really amazing to me. And then for, I also have a couple different sets of programmable LED poi. My preferred set is my Pyroterra poi because the resolution on them is pretty high, number one, and number two, there's a remote control that you can use to set the programs on them going. The remote control is just utterly incredible. If you're gonna drop $1,000 on a set of poi, drop them on a set of poi that is that well built and designed, I gotta say. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Cool. And Stoicho Garnev says, tell us about your mini cats. We've only got 2 of them. The cats are, they came into this apartment with my girlfriend Lydia. They were actually strays that she found in her backyard. There was a litter of like, I want to say 5 or 6 of them. And the most social ones got adopted by other people that she knew, and she wound up keeping the 2 least social ones. And over time, they've mellowed out wonderfully. They're incredibly sweet cats. They love to cuddle with us at night now. Um, the one on the couch that you might be able to see there is Theo. She is a little bit more standoffish, a little bit more antisocial. And the other one who is probably in the bedroom right now is Shiloh, who is a lot more of a princess and very, very demanding of attention when she wants it. So, yeah, they're nice. They're nice cats. I was not a cat person before I moved in with Lydia, and now I am very much a devoted cat dad. So, it's funny how that works sometimes. I'm going to take 2 seconds, by the way, to just talk about my workshops in New York City next weekend on the 27th, or not on the 27th, on the 7th of July. I'm going to be teaching at the Floasis in Brooklyn. I have 3 workshops. They are Fundamentals of Tech, Sticky Hybrids, and the Art of Prop Performance. So if you are in the New York City area and want to come take a workshop from me, then you should come out next weekend. Because I would like to tour more this year, and I would like to teach workshops in more places. And this is kind of like a test case for me to see how that goes, because it's actually a lot more work booking a tour for yourself than it is going around to fire festivals. And I'm not sure whether it winds up being more trouble than it's worth or not. So if you've got a friend in the New York City area, please tell them to come to my workshops. There is a link to the ticketing page that's down in the description of this video, so pretty please check that out. And yeah, I can't wait to return to New York City to teach. I haven't taught a workshop in New York City, I think, in like probably 4 or 5 years now. So it'll be wonderful to come back. And the Floasis is such a great venue, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, too, if any of you guys out there can't come to my workshops but still want to support the work that I do, please feel free to use the super chat function here on YouTube. If you see that square button in the chat with the $sign in it, that is the super chat, and it allows you to like tip me $1 or $2 if you want to, and that helps me out a lot. It helps keep the channel going, and yeah, I really appreciate that. So now back to your questions. Nexus is asking, do you know a flow art center in Europe? I cannot find anything in Germany or the Netherlands. I usually just see people at festivals. I wonder where they learn all their tricks, maybe through YouTube. The short answer is I don't know. I don't know very much about the European flow scene. I have a lot of friends who toured through Europe extensively. Marvin Ong, I think at this point, wishes that he had immigrated to Europe instead of the United States, because the kind of social net and the art grant scene in Europe are far better than they are in the United States. The United States does not do a very good job of supporting its artists. I do know that circus festivals are a regular and a huge thing in Europe. Clearly EJC is a thing, although they're having that in the Azores this year, so that's hard to get to. But there's also like the British Juggling Convention. There's, I want to say it's like Phoenix Fire Festival that's in the UK every year. I don't know if I'm getting the name of that right. But yeah, there are a few festivals in Europe. I would do a look-see, and I'm pretty sure there are some websites that have compilations of all the European festivals. I usually only list flow festivals rather than juggling festivals, simply because it seems like the vibe is slightly different, and there's overlap, but kind of the point of them is slightly different. So yeah, there are definitely people out there and events out there. So that's where I would look. And I think that a big part of it too is actually people learning on YouTube. I know that a large portion of my views come from, you know, like Germany and France and UK and everything. So yeah, I think people learn in Europe in much the same way they learn in the United States. Furdev's Falcon says, how much does it weigh? I don't know if you are talking about the emoji poi or not. I'm going to guess you're talking about the emoji poi. And the short answer is with a single weight in them, and I'm totally going to get this wrong. I would say actually look it up on the Lanternsmith site, but I think that with just one weight in these, they wind up being like 160 or 170 grams, which is about 20 grams lighter than 90 millimeter contact juggling balls usually are. So with a single weight, they're slightly less. With 2 weights, they're actually slightly more. With 3 weights, they're a lot more. But again, you get to control the weight, which is pretty awesome. Gunter Smith says, are you familiar with Mood Hoop's Future Poi? Yes, in fact, I have 2 pairs that they sent me to review. So what I like about them is they do the whole thing of like, cool pictures in your trails and everything. The price point is really good. And the thing I most love about them is the weight distribution. This is something that like every single set of programmable poi I have ever picked up has a problem with. The weight distribution, I gotta set it here. So the weight distribution is such that it's like evenly weighted from about the midpoint of the tether all the way to the end. And they don't feel like poi should. There's definitely a period of adjustment when you start spinning them, and there's a lot of things that feel awkward and look awkward because of that. Mood Hoops is literally the only company that I've seen with these kind of LED trail poi that have figured out the weight distribution problem. The weight feels properly on the end, and spinning them feels very, very comfortable and a very easy transition from my practice poi. That said, they are not programmable. You do not get to change the patterns on them, and the majority of what I use those kind of LED trail poi for is like corporate gigs and the like. And if I can't program a logo into a set of poi, then I can't use it for a gig. So I think they're cool for people who want to have really cool looking trails at festivals. The price point is certainly right. But if you're doing corporate gigs, they're not going to cut it. Yeah. The lantern poi. Yes, cool. I did get it right. Line Nexus says, "Ha, that thick tether is insane." Yeah, on this pod boy here. I know, and it's so funny because nobody watching the videos has any idea. But every time I pick these up, I feel like I'm picking up a baseball bat. It's hilarious. But yeah, it is funny. Isaiah Oler says, any advice for what to learn next when you're not sure? Yes. So all of us at some point or another see somebody doing a trick that we're all like, you know what? I don't think that looks very cool. I'm not interested in doing that and everything. And a funny thing will almost always happen, and that's that somewhere down the line, somebody will come up with something that involves using that trick that you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. And then you'll have to go back and do the work, learning how to do it and everything. I remember when I first started learning 3-poi. 3-poi had been a thing for a couple years at that point, and I was way far behind the curve of everybody in learning how to do that stuff. And learning 3-poi is one of the hardest things that I have had to learn in my 10 years, or 11 plus years of spinning now. So learn something that you don't think is interesting is my advice on that one. And I know it's hard to like keep yourself motivated when you're learning something that doesn't seem that interesting, but the fact that there's something in there that you don't know how to do yet. And no matter what, when you fill in gaps in your knowledge, that opens up new avenues for you. Even if you don't like that one trick, in the process of learning it, you're going to learn something new that is interesting to you. And you might find a trick that is really cool that you never would have otherwise. Yeah? So that would be my advice. Go learn something that you previously did not learn because you didn't think it was interesting. And plus, which, let's face it, a lot of times when we say there's a trick that we're not interested in learning, a lot of it is saying something that you know is going to be really hard to learn and being like, oh, I don't want to do that work. And for me, that first trick was crossers. I avoided learning crossers for like a year because I knew it was going to be hard, and I was just like, yeah, it doesn't look like it's that interesting. And then I finally buckled down to learn it, and it was hard. Um, but coming through it on the other side, like part of the reason it was hard is because I needed to train myself to be able to spin with my arms crossed. And getting that down opened up so much more stuff with body tracing and the like that, you know, to this day I don't use crossers very often. But I'm so glad that I learned them because that was a huge gap in my knowledge and it was really important for me to learn it. Yeah? Cool. I hope that was helpful. Dreamer says, love you, Drex. I just learned the 3-beat weave thanks to you. Huzzah! I'm glad I was able to help. You should feel very proud of yourself, too, because the 3-beat weave is difficult to learn as it is, but I think it's even harder to learn from a video. I frequently feel really, really bad for people who are just starting off learning that one trick, because if it's not something that's super intuitive to you right off the bat, it's going to be really, really hard to get down. And getting it down without a person there next to you helping you through it makes it even harder. So hats off to you. Good job. Every accomplishment is something that you should celebrate. So well done. Suraj Kancharla says, Namaste from India. Namaste. Thanks for the video on stalls. You're so welcome. I actually have several videos on stalls. So if you want more information on stalls, you should dig through my back catalog of videos on YouTube, because there's a lot of videos in there that you'll probably be into. Stoicho Garnev, you are definitely this chat's MVP. What video you mean, Suraj? I'm currently practicing stalls. So I have several recent stall videos that I did. There's the top 5 tricks that use stalls. There is three tips for getting down stalls, and there's a host of older videos too. And the video that includes the trick to I think it's 3 tricks to learning stalls, or the secret to learning stalls, includes what I think is the best stall drill that I personally have ever seen. If you don't mind me tooting my own horn and everything. So yeah, check that out, because I think it is. I think it's very, very helpful. Line Nexus. People here like contact improv and juggling. Oh, are you in Europe, like? Cool. I like contact improv. Contact improv is fun. Poeta says, hi Dex, I'm super new and you're amazing. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm wondering where I can find a list of flame/flow festivals in the United States. So short answer is that I used to curate one, and I included a lot of the events in the United States for this year, but not all of them by any means. And part of it was that the upkeep on it was just kind of a pain in the butt. So I kind of want to go back to the drawing board on that and make something that's like more user generated. The short answer is that there really is no comprehensive list right now. And I apologize, because in past years I've hosted that list, and the amount of energy that it took to keep it up, the effort wound up not being terribly worth it, because everybody was just finding out about the festivals on Facebook anyhow. So I kind of was like, there's maybe 100 people that find this useful, and thousands of other people that are getting this information on Facebook. So I'm gonna let this one go, but I would like to come back and have something that's similar to Nick Woolsey's Flow Map the World, that people can, use for user-generated events, festivals, and the like. So maybe that'll come in 2019. We'll have to see. Gunter Smith says, I got a pair of the Future Point Micro, and any type of wrap, it pinches my skin and causes a blood blister. Yeah. I mean, you're going to find that is true of pretty much any programmable point. Again, a big part of it is just that you lose so much of the tether to the LEDs. It looks so cool, but there is a price for looking cool with these, yeah? So, yeah, unfortunately, that's just how it goes. So it's either, you just do it enough that your hands acclimate to it, or maybe you wear a set of like biker gloves or something like that to protect your hands. But yeah, it's kind of baked into the pudding, unfortunately. Yeah. Stoicho Garnev, search for a video with this title, Poi Stalls, 3 tips for unlocking the secrets to clean stalls. Hey, great video. I love it. Hey, Alex Webster just tipped the channel $5 Canadian. Thanks for everything. Come visit Toronto sometime. I would love to. I'd absolutely love to. And thank you so much for the super chat. It helps out so much. Thank you for supporting my channel. Gunter Smith, not sure if mine are missing a piece at the top or not. Nope, they're not missing a piece at the top. That like I said, that's just baked into the pudding of how those programmable poi work. The way they're constructed, at least. Light Nexus says, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with all the world and for being so personable. I hope you get a lot of support for your art. I hope so too. You know, it definitely helps. Yeah, and I'm glad that you find me personable, because I definitely feel like sometimes I'm a little. I have been told that I can come off as kind of like Spock-like, somewhat distant and everything. So that's great to hear. Stoicho Garnov says, have you ever been burnt by poi? More times than I can count. Yeah, honestly, it barely registers with me anymore, unless it's like a super bad burn, but I haven't burned myself super bad with my poi in years. And, you know, it kind of is par for the course. It's part of the risk that you take on when you, are spinning fire poi and everything. So, in most cases, I'll get like a red welt. I'll be able to see the pattern of the wicks in my arm or something like that, and it's not the end of the world. I do tend to lose a lot of hair on my arms, though, which is always fun. I always know that it's summertime because I don't have hair on my arms, and I'm able to go out and spin and everything, so that's fun. Yeah. So, yeah, I've been burnt a bunch in, you know, if you get into fire poi. Yeah, it just comes with the territory, and it'll be scary the first couple times it happens, but you'll get used to it, and eventually it'll become it'll just become something that happens, like, you know, when you're, you know, in dance. It's not unusual for you to like pull muscles and things like that and just keep on dancing and everything. So yeah, it happens. Cauldron Fitzpatrick says, thoughts on longer poi versus shorter? My brother told me my longer poi looked cooler than the sock poi I shortened, but doing things like buzzsaws get interesting needing to wrap around my hand mid-spin. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that you can look at it. Shorter, basically the way I look at it is this. If you have to wrap your poi for more than 50% of the time while you're spinning, you should just have shorter poi, because, you know, it's less likely that you're gonna like have abrasion injuries on your hands then, and it's also pretty clear that you're playing around with more tricks that require that shorter length, and I think that you ought to go in the direction of kind of what your primary trick drive is, so to speak, you know? So, like, purely for practical reasons, the tethers for my video shoot pod poi are quite a bit shorter than the tethers for my contact poi. And the reason for that is that I shoot all of my videos here in my living room. I actually convert the space back there into a studio. And my ceilings are not terribly high. I want to say that my ceilings are like 8 or 10 feet high, something like that. I'm 6 feet tall, so like it's really, really easy for me to hit my poi against the ceiling and everything. So by keeping my poi shorter, not only does it allow me to get tighter angles so you can see my face better as I'm talking to you guys in my videos, but it also means that I am less likely to hit the ceiling, which both I and my neighbors prefer. That said, shorter poi do have some... So, things that shorter poi are good for. They are awesome for a lot of plane changing stalls. They are awesome for inversions. They are also awesome for gunslingers. Shorter poi tend to work much better for that. Longer poi are much better for tosses. They're better for contact. And for my money, I do like the way that longer poi look with flowers. But there are plenty of people that do beautiful flower work with shorter poi. What you wind up finding then is just that the petals tend to be thinner and sharper. Um, I like when you're using longer poi how it forces you to slow down a little bit and trace out much more graceful arcs on the flowers. But that's my personal preference on it, and I don't think, like, what should matter to you most is if you feel confident with the poi, you know? There is one exception to this, and that is if you're performing. If you're performing, use longer poi, always, because they can be seen from a greater distance away. And it helps out your performance dynamics to be taking up more space and everything, right? So if it's just your practice and you're either working in a small room like I am, or you're working with inversions a lot, then yeah, use shorter poi. If you're doing a lot of contact, if you're doing a lot of tosses, if you're performing, use longer poi. That is how we break that down. And the thing also to remember about longer poi is that you can always wrap them around your head and shorten your hand and shorten them. But again, if you're finding that you have to do that 50% or more of the time when you're spinning, you should probably just shorten the poi. Yeah. Cool. Good question. Matt Vieira says, "Hi Drex, I've been spinning poi for 3 years now and just wanted to thank you for all your help. You are so welcome. Your positive attitude and great explanatory make it a great learning experience. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that my videos are of help to you. It is one of those things that I didn't really know why I was making videos to start with, and one of those things that factored into that was, there was a video I remember I produced, and it was like Tech Blog 9 or 10 or something like that. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. I did like 300 or 400 of them, so I can't remember each individual one, unfortunately. But I remember there was a video that I did coming back from Spain. I had gone to Nowhere, and which is the regional burn for Europe. And it was happening at the same time as EJC. This is one of 2 times when I have almost gone to EJC. I also almost went last year, but it didn't really come together. And I ran into Alien John in Barcelona, and he was showing me that at EJC, he and G had been working on diagonal plane moves, and I thought that was really cool. And, this was still in the days when video was hard to produce, so I did a tech blog on it in my living room and posted video of it to YouTube, and I kind of had this aha moment where I'm like, hey, I'm getting to travel around to all these different places and everything and meet these amazing poi people who are not getting much content on the internet, and so I can have this role of like being a conduit between these people who are coming up with these great ideas and the people who are really interested in them. And once I had that under my belt, that really became my reason for creating videos and traveling. And things have changed a lot since then. Now everybody has, a video camera on their cell phone and everything, and everybody gets to post whatever ideas they come up with. So the purpose of my videos has changed a bit, but fundamentally, why I was posting was always that I wanted to help people. I wanted to provide them with a resource. And it's really, really, really good to know when, that intention has landed, that I've managed to do that. So thank you. I appreciate it. Cool. And while I was off on that tangent, Matt Vieira gave a $5 super chat to the channel. Thank you so much. And asks, will you ever be in the Boulder, Denver area for any workshops? Yes, actually. So fun fact, I'm from Boulder. I grew up in Boulder. I lived in Boulder for 26, 27 years, something like that. And I come back to Boulder every winter to spend Christmas with my family. And in years past, I have done workshops. I haven't done it the past couple years for a lot of reasons, including just like end of the year burnout and everything. But yeah, I mean, I would be happy to come back and do workshops this year if there's a demand for it. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And I've taught at the Boulder Circus Center, and it's just such a beautiful space. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'd be delighted to come back and teach this winter again. Cool. Why Nexus says, do you think of poi combos in your dreams at night, or does it happen intuitively while you're performing? It most often happens. Well, okay. So there's 2 ways that it happens. Number one is that I'm doing something that is really boring, like I'm washing dishes or folding laundry or something like that, and my mind will start to wander, and like, I think of poi as being series of alignments between the poi, you know? In my mind's eye, I always kind of like think of poi as being a series of photographs and seeing the way that poi lines up in different places. And I'll occasionally think of a way that they line up and then realize that there's another move that lines up in the exact same position and be thinking to myself, oh, I wonder if I can get back and forth between those two things. Um, and, you know, then the next time I get a chance to go pick up a set of poi, I'll play around with it and see if I can pull it off. It happens actually far more often that I'm just spinning and flowing by myself and I get an idea and I want to try and see if I can pull it off. Oh, pardon me. It's 91 degrees in DC today, and so it's hot as balls in my apartment right now because I have the air conditioner turned off because it makes so much background noise that you guys wouldn't be able to hear me very well. Um, and so I'm like at the beginning of a little bit of a flop sweat here. And of course, you know, the thing that happens whenever you're in a very warm room, which is that you get a little bit drowsy and everything, but I'll try and stay focused for you guys here. So yeah, basically it's either when I'm doing something that's kind of boring and my mind starts to wander, or it is when I'm flowing and I get an idea for ways that those alignments can meet up and everything. Those are usually the two ways I get ideas for stuff. And while I was on that tangent, Linexus contributed 444 in euro to the channel. Thank you so much, Lai, and says, you deserve more, but I am paying off my student loan. Hey, I get it, and any amount helps. It really, truly means the world to me when people want to support the channel. Because, like, you know, I put content out there, and I know that there are people that say thank you, and I really appreciate that and everything. But, like, knowing that it means so much to somebody that they're willing to, you know, throw me a little bit of hard-earned money in my direction, like, you know, that's a really powerful statement, and it's one that I really appreciate. So thank you to all of you guys who've been contributing via the super chat here, because it really, it really, really, really makes me feel appreciated. Not that the thank yous don't. I really appreciate the thank yous as well, but there's something about somebody being willing to commit to something by like throwing a few dollars in that like really tells you that you did something that really truly affected them. So thank you guys. Cool. Matt Vieira, also your tutorial on the Fantastic Four is the best I have come by so far. Huzzah! Just got it clean and looking good. Thanks so much. You are so welcome. Yeah, fun fact. So, you know, when I went to the International Gloving Championship a couple years ago, Amazing Lights puts it on in Los Angeles, there were a bunch of orbiters there, and every last one of them wanted to learn how to do the Fantastic Four from me, which orbits have these teeny tiny little tethers to them, and the handles don't weigh very much, and the center parts of them are like kind of massive and difficult to grip. And so it was really, really, really a challenge getting a lot of these guys to that point. And I'm really glad that I was able to teach so many of them how to do it, because, you know, I saw a bunch of them actually using the trick in competition. It was really cool. But yeah, just one of those great ways that we can like cross-pollinate ideas and everything. And my hat's off to the orbiters that can do it, because damn, it's hard using an orbit. But I'm glad that you enjoyed that tutorial. Yeah, Fantastic Fours are fun. I don't do them nearly as often as I should anymore, especially because there's such a great way to do like one-handed spiral wraps and change planes and everything. But maybe I should go back to that. Linexus says, I love the top 5 body tracers video because archer-weaves are so cool. I agree. I think archer-weaves are amazing. I think actually archer-weaves, like probably for the past year, have been that trick that I probably do a little bit too much. We all have that one trick that we just like kind of find our way back to as a home base, and archer-weaves have definitely been that for me for the past year. So I'm glad you like them too, and I'm glad you like the top 5 body tracers video. It's really funny because sometimes stuff catches on that you just, like, comes out of nowhere. And I actually, in a YouTube Q&A last year, there was somebody who asked me, you know, what are the top 5 tricks I should learn as a beginner? And, you know, I gave them an answer and everything, but I also just, like, the moment they said that, I'm like, wow, that's a great idea for a video. I should try that. So I did do that video, and, you know, it was one of those things that I thought, yeah, cool idea, but, you know, I'm not expecting it to do anything exceptional, and then it blew up. Huge. Huge. It is, like, it is on the road now to becoming one of the most viewed videos on my YouTube channel, which just blows my mind. I mean, who knew, right? And of course, a lot of people came back like, oh, you should do top 5 intermediate tricks and top 5 advanced tricks and things like that. And, you know, of course, my answer to that is like, it's easy to say which tricks you think are beginner tricks, but once you move past that point, it gets a lot harder. So I started coming back at it and be like, well, okay, how about 5 body tracers? How about 5 stall tricks? Things like that. And I've done about, like, except for June, I've done one a month of those videos, and every single time they get such an amazing reaction. And it's totally one of those things that if somebody hadn't asked for it in a YouTube chat like this, that idea never would have crossed my mind, never in a million years. So getting a chat with you guys on these YouTube chats are really helpful, because, you know, I get to find out what you guys need, and then I can make videos about that. And in a lot of cases, it turns out there are other people that need the exact same things that you do. So helps me out too, you know. Cauldron Fitzpatrick, many thanks for all your tutorials. I've learned a lot from you, your experience, and well-shown/described moves. Thank you so much, Cauldron. Again, it means a lot to hear that the intention is landing, and that what I'm intending to do and help people out there is actually happening. So thank you so much. Matt Vieira says, lots of beautiful flomies in Colorado, so it doesn't surprise me that you had lived here so long. I love the Circus Center as well. I attend weekly community flows there all the time. Yeah, actually, so if you go to the Wednesday night jams, I am almost always at the Wednesday night jam before Christmas. Almost always. The only exception was when the Wednesday night jam was on Christmas Eve itself. But yeah, I try and go there every time I come through town and everything. And it's funny because I almost always fly in on that Wednesday and then go to the jam that night, and there are always people who are just like, you know, hey, you know, you want to go out and grab a drink or a slice of pizza or something like that? And I'm like, I just got off the plane and I'm still on East Coast time, so I'm gonna be an old man and go to bed. But maybe one of these years I'll fly in on a Tuesday and actually get to go out and hang out with everybody after the jam. But cool. Cauldron Fitzpatrick, the top 5 body tracers inspired me to learn the Archer Weave, and then on the Archer Weave fountain. It just feels so good to do. I agree. I think the Archer Weave fountain feels amazing. Again, one of those reasons why I probably overdo it a little bit. But it looks so cool. And the thing is that it looks so cool in any context. I think people don't quite realize that, like, spinning daytime poi and spinning glow poi and spinning fire poi are all like different genres because they capture attention in different ways. You have to worry so much more about what your body is doing when you're spinning daytime poi or fire poi than you do if you're spinning LED poi. Like, in most cases, when you're spinning LED poi, your body's basically invisible. It almost doesn't matter. And I've seen people who have, like, incredibly cool routines that feature, like, crazy body tracing and things like that that are absolutely amazing with fire or daytime poi, and then they do it with glow poi in the dark, and it just doesn't look like anything at all because they're so used to the interaction with their body as being the hook for that performance. So whenever you're performing with a different set of poi, you really have to think about how it's going to read to the audience. And one of the things that I absolutely adore about the Archer Weave fountain is it's one of the few tricks that I've found that transfers between all 3 just flawlessly. It looks great on lit, it looks great on fire, and it looks great with LED. Even if you can't tell that it's a body tracer, the way that the poi are interacting with it and everything still looks amazing. So yeah, Archer Weave fountains, 2 extraordinarily enthusiastic thumbs up here, without a doubt. Lion Nexus says, I think the slow motion body cam helps, because that's the way we see the poi while we are spinning them ourselves, and that helps the brain somehow. I completely agree. I think that the POV shots are enormously helpful to have. It's one of the reasons that I put them in this past week's tutorial on 5-beat weaves. Fun fact, I didn't originally shoot that video with the POV footage in it. It was only after I had completely edited the footage that I realized how useful those shots were going to be. That also created a problem because there was no place for them to fit in the narration. So, like, as I had this thought, I literally just cleared out my living room and put on, the GoPro helmet and everything, and shot footage of myself doing a 5-beat weave right there and then. I didn't have time to set up my home studio or anything like that, so it was just, my wall and kitchen in the background and everything. And threw the shots in, and I'm so glad that I did, because I think that it was enormously helpful. I think it was a huge asset to that video, and the thing is, though, is that it's not always a help. There are quite a lot of tricks, especially like, flower-based tricks, where having the POV actually kind of makes it more confusing, where you really want to be thinking about the pattern that the poi create instead of what it looks like from where you're sitting, because, of course, ultimately, you want to be able to spin without having to look at your hands and everything. And so where it's when I was doing the 1-minute tutorials, I would always, always, always include a POV shot when I thought it was going to help with the trick. And there were several times that I shot POV footage, and then after the fact came back and looked at it, I'm like, there's nothing that I get out of this, and I don't think there's anything that anybody else is going to get out of it either. So, yeah, I think that the POV stuff is super helpful, and I'm glad that I included it in the 5-beat weave tutorial. Got it out. Cool. Colin Fitzpatrick. I'm making a set of fire poi. I want to bounce the design off of you. What's the best way to send that to you? Either message me on Facebook or send me an email at drex@drexfactor.com. But yeah, sounds cool. Can't wait to check them out. Linexus says, yes, well worth the effort, and thanks. You are so very welcome. And I agree. Very, very much well worth the effort. There was definitely... So I started editing that video on noon, the day before it was it was supposed to go live at midnight. And I never do this because editing is usually a several-hour process for me. And I knew that there was a half-decent chance that that was going to blow up very, very badly in my face, especially because I knew that the video was going to be incredibly long. But once... Number one, the editing went a lot faster than I thought it was going to go. And then when I got to the end and realized how much that shot was going to help, I kind of half of it was like, well, I don't have the studio set up and I don't have any natural place to stick that in the narration. And then, of course, the other part of it was just like, okay, so you lucked out big time. And, you managed to get this video edited so fast. And now you're talking about going back and shooting more footage. What is wrong with you? But I'm glad that I did it anyway and that I fought for it. It definitely was worth it. Stoicho Garnev says, when do you go to bed? Generally somewhere between 11 and midnight. Yeah, I have a really bad tendency to stay up late sometimes, simply because I'm a night owl and I feel like I get really creative at night. But my girlfriend Lydia has very, very early mornings, and so I tend to find that going to bed slightly earlier is better for both of us, because I don't wake her up when I go to bed, and when she wakes me up in the morning when she gets up, it is less likely to cause problems for me during the day, because I have a really, really difficult time sleeping during the day when the sun is out and everything. So, yeah. Cool. So, if there's nobody who has any more questions, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this this Q&A up. Again, if any of you guys are in the New York City area, I'm going to be coming to your neck of the woods next weekend. On July 7th, I teach a 3-hour block of workshops at the Floasis. Please, please, please come out and see me. There is a link to the event in the description of this here video. And I would love to see your smiling faces in the crowd. And, if these workshops go well, then I am hoping to be able to do this in more cities. I'd love to be able to come around and visit y'all out there. So spread the word. If you got friends who live in New York City, see if they'd be interested in coming. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you all so much. Thanks especially to all of you guys who contributed on the super chat. I love it when people support the channel like that. It means a lot to me. And I also want to take a second to thank all of my lovely patrons on Patreon who are supporting me on a month-to-month basis, because that is how I pay my rent at this point, and it is amazing, and thank you. If any of you guys would like to sign up to support the work that I do, please head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi, and yeah, there you can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and you get some awesome behind-the-scenes content, as well as you get access to all of my videos the day before the rest of the world does, which is pretty rad, I think. And of course, thank you to the friends of the channel, the companies that are helping to keep me afloat, which at this point are Dark Monk, Amazing Lights, Flow Toys, Spinballs, and UltraPoi. Thank you one and all for helping to make this channel possible. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will try very hard to make sure that it is not another 2 months in between these chats, because I do like getting to connect with you guys, yeah? So, thank y'all, and have a good one. Peace out.